press room.
Yeah.
Nick, should the Packers shut down Aaron Rodgers?
Of course.
Okay.
And Aaron should suggest it.
Oh.
It's what's best for him, and more importantly, it's what's best for the Packers. Because there is only one silver lining to this season from hell. And that is, it gives you an opportunity that you would not have otherwise gotten to get real game time with Jordan Love, which will inform you on a critical decision you have to make here in a few months, which is whether or not to pick up his fifth-year option. So just follow me on this quickly here. Okay. First-round pick, you decide on your first-round picks, fifth-year options after their third year. This is third year. So this is the window to do it right after this season. If he plays and he's bad, you decline the option. You cut your losses. You don't cut the player, but you're like, okay, it was a bad pick. Mm-hmm. If he plays and he's good, you pick up the option, and then you decide, you talk with Aaron, how much longer are you going to plan on playing?
Oh, he'll be.
Are we going to
He'll be clear in that.
Well, you do your best. And are we going to keep Jordan Love to plan to play him in 2 years? Or you pick up his option because he's good. You trade him to help this Packers team, which clearly needs things, try to win a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. Or you pick up his option and he's good, and you trade Aaron Rodgers. But you don't have the opportunity to make an informed decision unless you play him. You can't play him if the team's good. The team's not good. So it's, and as an added reason, quarterback's banged up everywhere. He's got a broken thumb and seemingly cracked ribs. This shouldn't be a discussion. This is not an indictment on Aaron Rodgers, Greg, but he should not play another snap this season for the Packers.
I agree, and I don't think it's just because of the injuries of the thumb and the ribs. There's a lot. There's the emotional roller coaster that you have to endure when you're talking about Aaron Rodgers, that he's taking this Green Bay Packer and the guys in his locker room on all year long. But when you saw Jordan Love enter into the game and you saw what he was able to provide, I loved everything about it. For me, it's before anything, this team has no chance to win this year. Like, they're not – if your goal of the Green Bay Packers is to make the playoffs, which is never their goal is to win championships. This is not a championship contending team. And so with that being said, you do everything you just mentioned.
Greg said 3 weeks ago, by the way,
Absolutely.
that if they lost 2 of their next 3, that you should turn the page to
you would
Love,
and this again, it had nothing to do with just the injuries. It's the direction of where you're going for the future and what your future potentially would look like. You have to look and see and give Jordan Love meaningful time. And the reason why, we've never seen Jordan Love in this position. We've always seen him have to fill in when the Packers were really good. He's playing behind a back-to-back or a MVP type guy who's playing at an MVP level. None of that is true. So the expectations that we have for Jordan Love are lessened. The desire for him to hold down the fort, it's not there. Yeah. It's all he has to do is go out there and just be free. Be Jordan and see what you bring to the table to see if your value is enough to where they want to keep you.
Okay, so here's my question. He just said that he wanted to play, expected to play against Chicago. We've had this thumb injury lingering since London in the Giants, and it got revealed in an odd way that it's an avulsion fracture, which I wasn't familiar with what an avulsion fracture was. Luckily, Ian Rappaport explained it. Buckle up for this one. It causes the ligament to rip away from the attachment, taking some bone with it. Okay. Essentially, it's a fracture and a torn ligament, a little 2-for-1 deal, resulting in joint instability. So this dude has been playing with a piece of the bone missing and a ligament injury, and he's played through it, and he's played horribly because he wants to be out there. It seems like, Nick, he still wants to be out there.
Yeah.
So if you're Matt LaFleur, and I'm like, I want to go out there, you're taking the ball out of my hands?
To me, this is a very interesting moment in Aaron Rodgers' career, because Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst should be able to take him aside and say, all right, you want to fight through the injuries. We appreciate that about you. That's part of what makes you great. Set that aside. I want you not to think about your injuries. I want you to think about 13 years ago when you were in Jordan's position.
Thank you.
When you were on the bench and you had been waiting and waiting and waiting. And finally, by the way, did get to play in a game because Brett missed a game, which obviously he never did. Or Brett got taken out of a game, pardon me, didn't miss. And then even though the season was lost and we were no good, Brett forces his way back in. How did you feel? What was that like for you? Do you want to be that same guy, or do you want to do something selfless? When one of the knocks on Aaron has been a little bit of a me guy, this is what is best not only for the future of our team, but also for this young man who has been working under you for a few years. And so to me, I wouldn't let him make the decision. I hate to always use this quote, but I Dom Draper the situation. Aaron, that's what the money's for. And the money's coming no matter what. We make the call on who's playing, we're putting you on IR. But I would try to get Aaron on board with it, Greg, and I'd try to let Jordan Love play the next 6 weeks and see what it looks like.
Yeah, when you talk about letting Jordan Love play, what we saw, again, small sample size, but if we look at some of the plays that he made, if we have it, some of the plays that he made yesterday, obviously this is the touchdown pass to Christian Watson. Christian Watson, electric talent. We're starting to see that. Aaron Rodgers is starting to utilize him.
To be honest with you,
now that
seems
he's
like
healthy.
A Christian Watson highlight.
Hey, it is, but this right here, look at this. I want you to, the next play, when he makes this throw to Alan Lazard, it's 2nd and 10, and most everybody at home is probably looking like, Jordan, you got to put that in front of your receiver. No, you don't. You throw to a spot. You throw behind your receiver because not only do you protect your receiver, but you eliminate the opportunity for a defender to make an interception. Great decision, great throw, great timing. I love that particular play out of all of what you're going to see. And then the last one, incompletion.
Oh,
but
Greg,
it made the highlight. It's an incompletion.
Listen to what Greg said.
When you look at this guy, if his number wasn't 10, everything that we see looks like 12.
That's
you
true.
can tell he's been watching, he's been absorbing everything that the guy who has been electric for years for this franchise has been doing. He's been taking notes and he's implementing. Most importantly, you don't make that type of a throw if you don't believe you can start to make those throws and complete them. I loved everything that I saw about Jordan Love last night. That's why you go to him.
See more.
I'll be honest with you. You sold me on that incompletion highlight. I was doubtful of that, to be 100% honest.
Great play by the defender.
You sold me on it. Okay, question for you. Yeah. Suppose Jordan Love comes in and plays absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
Suppose he's Bailey Zappi-esque.
Okay, sure.
Well, then what are you going to do?
Well, then this offseason, then we have to make a big boy decision. Do we think this was an aberrant year, Aaron's going to be back to close to MVP form, and that we can try to make some tweaks and compete for a Super Bowl? If that's the case, then we use Jordan Love as an asset to get a player that can help us right now.
Absolutely.
You trade him for someone to help you right now. If you are being more honest about where I think the Packers are, which is you're not a player away, then you say, okay, someone will trade for Aaron Rodgers. 2 teams have traded for Carson Wentz in the last 3 years. Teams trade for Matt Ryan. Teams trade who gave up the farm for Russell Wilson. Traded for Matt Stafford when he had proven nothing. Even with the contract, you can get something for Aaron, clean up your cap situation, and move forward Jordan Love. But you've got to let him play so you can make an informed decision.
Okay, I bet Aaron Rodgers plays.
Well, I think it's a selfish
side bet. On the other side of the ball, Jalen Hurts and the Eagles improved to 10-1, 2 touchdowns, 153 yards through the air, 157 yards on the ground. Fox bet MVP odds. Mahomes at 1, Hurts at 2. Josh Allen and Tua have kind of fallen off the wayside. So, Nick, can Jalen, and we're being kind here, steal the MVP away? That's like a leading question in journalism school. Away from Mahomes down the stretch. Steal it away.
Wildes, what did I tell you last week?
Mr. Consistency?
Well, yeah, that's my name, but that's not what I told you.
Oh, yeah.
What I told you guys last week, all the media finally had the MVP conversation right. But even then, they got it wrong. Because last week, you know what everybody said? Mahomes is clearly the MVP. And that part they were right about. You know what they got wrong? Race is over. And I sat here and said, no, of course it's not over. Because we will do what we have done to Mahomes ever since he won the first one, which is change the rules and change the goalposts so it is a horse race. So at the beginning of the year, it was Mahomes trailing Josh Allen.
Yep.
Before a game had been played, Josh Allen was the MVP. Then Mahomes caught up to him. There's Mahomes and Allen. Then Allen fell by the wayside. It's like, oh, yeah, the guy who's number one in yards by 400 yards and number one in touchdowns by 6 touchdowns, the guy who's the gap between him and second place in both those categories, same as the gap between second place and Kirk Cousins in both those categories, he's probably the MVP. But now we got to make it a horse race again. So now it's Jalen. And here's my prediction for both you guys. It's not going to end up being Mahomes versus Jalen. Because Jalen's not going to keep, the Eagles are going to lose a couple times, and Jalen's numbers aren't overwhelming. And then, right around Christmas time, you know what's going to be on the bottom line of all these TV shows? The real MVP plays in Miami. Oh, Miami. Tua, look at his passer rating. Look at his numbers. And it's going to be Mahomes versus X. And then we'll see if, like what happened with Rodgers 2 years ago, that because Mahomes is resting in the final week of the year because he has everything locked up, that if he actually costs himself an MVP. But I know what we're doing to Patrick Mahomes, Greg. We never did to any of the other guys who won multiple MVPs. Once they win one, they usually win a bunch of them in short order. Favre won 3 in a row. Montana won back-to-back. Rodgers had a gap of 2 years. Brady had a gap of 2 years. Peyton won back-to-back. If Mahomes doesn't win it this year, it'll be 4 years of him not winning MVP when every year he's been the best quarterback in the league.
And that seems to disturb you a little bit.
Oh, it's just outrageous. It's just outrageous. If you want to, everyone says they have Mahomes fatigue. He doesn't have fatigue of winning the award. He's won it once. And he's had to watch lesser players consistently win it since then.
Well, I will say this. He will win it again.
Oh.
He will win it again. This is as great as Jalen Hurts has been. When you think, and Tua, when you think about all 3 of these teams, let's just take these 3 teams. The Miami Dolphins, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Kansas City Chiefs. When you look at Miami, you say Tua and Tyreek. They both have had such a drastic impact. I believe that Tyreek has had an even bigger and larger impact than Tua.
I buy that.
And he's allowed Tua to become who we've seen. When you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Hurts, very similar situation. We don't talk about the Philadelphia Eagles and just rant about Jalen Hurts and everything that he does. We talk about A.J. Brown. We talk about the impact that he has made coming over. We talk about their running game, all these other moving parts. When we talk about the Kansas City Chiefs, as great as Travis Kelce is, and he is phenomenal, what makes it work is Patrick Mahomes. When you look at, you can look at any stat, and I hate to do it because Nick, you're already, you talk about him too much, but I'm just going to give him some love right here.
Yeah.
Sure.
There's nobody that's going to, and I said this earlier in the year, that Josh Allen was the best quarterback in the league. I retract that statement. He is not.
There we go.
I'm one that I own mine.
Wow.
He is not. When you look at Patrick Mahomes and what he's able to do throwing the football, he is never going to not be consistent at that. And then when you look at what he does running the ball, like people slight him when we talk about running the ball.
Because he doesn't do it often, but when he does it, it works.
He's averaging 6.5 yards a carry on 247 yards and a touchdown.
I got to give Greg credit for owning that mistake.
Yeah.
But when you call one guy the best quarterback in football and then you retract it, you know what they'll never call Greg Jennings?
I do, Mr.
What?
Consistency.
They'll never call him Mr. Consistency. I'm sorry. There can only be one.
I'm just honest.
No.
It's like Highlander.
I'm just
There
honest.
can be only one.
Be consistent and wrong. It's better than inconsistent and right. That's just the way it is. That's the way it works on TV.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.